How about the summit meeting, the NATO summit meeting in Ankara, Turkey? Was that, in fact, a victory for Trump because the Europeans again committed to spend more on defense?
I think it's a little bit more complicated. I think I think under all the rhetoric of this summit, fundamentally nothing really has changed, other than the fact that Germany is intending to spend a lot more on defense, which is a net positive for America. Germany is the real special relationship in Europe. It's not the UK, it's not France, it's Germany. It's the middle of Europa, it's right in the center, it's the biggest power. And it is pro-American. Like, German culture is much more American than UK or France, which have got, they have got their own strategic culture centers. But other than that, nothing really has changed. There is a lot of commitment from Europe. Commitments don't really mean action on the ground. In any case, like, it's going to take time anyway. It's not going to be overnight. So, yes, there are pledges from various countries about spending more. But European research on burden shifting is lacking in some ways. For some reason, they wait for cues coming from America as to what they want to do without taking any kind of proactive action. I think that is wrong. I do think, the example that you mentioned, Germany placing 4,500 troops or 5,000 troops in Lithuania, is a good example. Those are the kind of mini ententes that I wrote about in Dormant NATO that needs to be done more. If France and Greece institutionalizes their defense partnership, if Turkey and Germany institutionalizes their defense partnerships, then those are the kind of things that they can do on their own without any kind of support from America or any kind of NATO institutional support. And technically, they're well within their rights to do that. The fact that it's not happening could mean two things. One, there is inertia in some of the European states. And second, they're still waiting and hoping that Trump is an aberration, and there would be a return back to the old Atlanticist ways. I think that's a mistake. I think that is not going to happen. I think the fundamental character of the Republican Party and the Democratic Party has changed. I think the trends that you see in 20 years' time is going to be very different, not to mention the structural realities of a rising Chinese power. If the hammer really, falls in the East, it's going to be nothing compared to what we have seen so far. Like, the Iran war, the Ukraine war will dwarf, in comparison to a Chinese invasion of Taiwan. And at that point in time, again, as Elbridge Colby constantly warned them, like, at that point in time, we're out. Like, there is no, it's precipitous. There is no gradual decline of US troops. If there's a war, in Asia, our troops are out of Europe. And I don't think the Europeans are ready for that scenario.
How aggressive do you think Putin is?
Extremely aggressive. He's
Do you think he wants to reconstitute the old Russian Empire?
No, I don't think so. I think he's an opportunist. I think he sees. Look, I wrote a book on Russian grand strategy, and if you really have to study Russian grand strategy, you have to ignore the kind of rhetoric that comes out of Kremlin or the tweets or their communiques. It's fundamentally about what they're actually doing on the field. And if Russia really wants to reconstitute their empire, one, they cannot do that. They don't have the manpower, and more importantly, they don't have the technological supremacy. They are fundamentally, in one way, Putin is right. They are fighting against NATO, just not officially. They are going against, it's one single country with the help of China and North Korea, which is going against 28 other countries in Europe. So by that logic, he's right. But on the other hand, that also means that he cannot really do much about things. Like, unless he's declaring war on NATO, which he won't, or unless NATO joins the Ukraine conflict, which they haven't so far, and I seriously doubt they will. I think it is a stalemate. I think he understands that. I think threat is capability plus intention. I think his intention is to grasp as much as he can and create his own legacy. He wants to be remembered by history. He's a 78-year-old man with a very strange, skewered sense of boomer history, and he wants his name written in gold. He wants to be considered as Peter the Great or something of that sort. But he's not. The Russians are not capable. For good or for bad, they tried and they failed. They couldn't conquer Ukraine. It's unlikely they're gonna conquer the Baltic states. They can start up tensions, but that's gonna be a policing problem. They can pour a whole bunch of money in riots and stuff like that. But again, that is not a military issue. And they absolutely cannot conquer Poland or Germany or France and, threaten the English Channel. It's just not happening. They don't have the navy. They cannot even get close to Odessa. So I think we have to keep the idea of Putin in proportion. He's definitely an opportunist. He's definitely an aggressive guy. He's definitely interested in taking as much as he can and reconstitute at least some part of buffer state between the Russians and the Europeans. As you obviously know, there is in Russian strategic culture, there is no word for safety. Like the closest that you can get safety is Bezopasnost, which is known danger. They have historically faced invasion from the West, and it's understandable that they would want to create a buffer. But that doesn't mean that they're capable of doing it, and I would want to keep that in mind when we are dealing with Putin.